Kelly, co-founder, co-CEO of Jane. This is Dr. Michelle. There are so many parts to your story, and I feel like I'm going to let you introduce. I think this is part of your presentation, is introducing you a bit of your background. But we got connected to you through your work with the WDC, which I actually don't even know what that stands for. Women
chiropractors. Yep.
Women chiropractors.
Women doctors of chiropractic.
Oh
yep.
my gosh.
You got it. You got it.
Women doctors of chiropractic. I'm sorry. Yep. So big fans of the work you're doing there. And I think customer service and customer support is very close to my heart as a very important part of a practice, and has been really integral to the way that we've tried to scale Jane as well. So I'm looking forward to what you have to share with us today on the topic. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, Jane is the best at customer service across the board. And that's why I continue to recommend and work with you guys. I mean, it's clear that not only do you really care about the customers, but you really care about your employees too, which is like really amazing in this day and age. So I really appreciate that. So let me start screen share. There we go. All right. Is that working?
Yep. Yep, we can see it.
All right, cool beans. Awesome. So I had to put dollar signs in here for a couple of reasons. One, it's not nice to say bad words, and two, dollar signs are one of the reasons we're all here. And so this is kick-ass customer service, creating a stellar patient experience. And I'm Dr. Michelle Wendling. The session goals today, I just want to be really clear about what you guys can expect. And obviously you're going to understand it. You already know the reasons for having a stellar patient experience. I'm going to use the word patient. I understand sometimes they're customers or clients or members. I'm going to use the word patients just because that's what I'm comfortable with. So hopefully you guys can be okay with that. But understanding, what it is that creates a stellar customer experience, and then what the benefits are. Why would you want to have a stellar patient experience in your office? Learning how the experience affects your patient's care and the results that they get from care, getting clarity about what kind of experience you want them to have. What do you want patients to experience when they walk into your office, and getting clear on that. And then looking at your actual office, I'm going to walk you through a couple places to kind of close your eyes and go, all right, what is the experience I'm creating right now in my office, and how could I possibly improve that a little bit? And then I'm going to give you tips kind of all along the way to get, a better patient experience. One of the things I like to talk about is I'm a practice enhancer, meaning I'm not redoing your entire practice because it's probably pretty freaking cool already, right? So all I'm going to do is enhance it just a little bit, elevate it just a little bit, and only in the direction you want it enhanced or elevated. So anything that rings true for you, use it, and anything that doesn't, toss it out. No big deal. All right, so who am I and why would you bother listening to me in the first place? As I said, I'm Dr. Michelle Wendling. I'm a chiropractor. I owned an office in Denver, Colorado for 15 years. It was 100% referral-based wellness practice, cash practice, stellar customer service, because that's always been a really big deal to me. Prior to chiropractic, I worked in physical therapy clinics as an exercise physiologist for many, many years. Massage therapy, I had my own practice. I had my own personal training business. I've basically been in business for like 40 years. No, not really. 30 years. I don't want to go too far. 30 years. I've been in business for 30 years. And maybe 32, but we don't want to talk about that. So I'm the current president of Women Chiropractors, which is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to connecting, educating, and uplifting women chiropractors all over the world. So that's a really fun, cool thing. And then I served on the Chiropractic Board of Examiners. I've been on lots of boards in the past, and I own my own business, which is a coaching firm. Because I sold my practice in 2001 so that my husband and I could travel the country in our RV. So now we're 15 months in, traveling the country in our RV. So if you have any questions about RV travel, you can email me, and I'm happy to give you all the ins and outs and all the things I've learned about that, because it is absolutely a blast. So what is a stellar customer service experience, right? What does that exactly mean? And, it can be anything from, the way you're greeted when you walk into a store to the entire experience. Like, for instance, my husband's a foodie. He loves to cook. I'm super spoiled. And he really loves French food. And so one of his favorite things is for us to go to stellar customer service experiences at restaurants, which means we try to hit as many Michelin star restaurants as possible. And if you don't know about Michelin star, I will tell you, it's amazing. So everyone's heard of this guy, right? Gordon Ramsay, right? Everyone's heard of him. So we actually flew to London, well, not just to go to his restaurant, but we flew to London. And during that, we booked an evening at his restaurant in London, in Chelsea. And what Michelin star is essentially a level of restaurant above and beyond any other restaurant in the world. And when you get 3 stars, it essentially means all the critics agree you're the best of the best of the best. And it doesn't just have to do with the food. It has to do with the color, the shape, the feel of the fabrics you're sitting on, the smell of the restaurant, the sounds you hear, the words that come out of people's mouths, what's written on the menu. It is all part of this experience. And so when you go to a Michelin star experience, a restaurant, I mean, the experience you get is just, it's all your senses, all the things being engaged. It's a beautiful thing. So that I highly recommend, put that on your bucket list if you haven't done it yet. We're kind of working our way through all the different ones. But one thing you'll notice about these things is that when you leave, you're going to remember that experience for a very, very long time. I think London was 4 or 5 years ago, and I can still tell you the colors of the tablecloth. I can tell you the flavor that cleansed our palate between tastes, right? All the details are still there because of the experience is housed in this brain of mine and my memories forever and ever. So why would you want to create a stellar patient experience? Why would you even want that? Like what is interesting about that? Well, first and foremost is the increase in value, right? I'm having trouble moving this thing over. There we go. I couldn't see my own screen here. So the increase in value. When you have a stellar experience and everyone knows you have a stellar experience, they expect to pay more for that experience, right? So you don't have to worry about discounting your services anymore. You don't have to worry about reducing your prices. You're going to get paid what you're worth because the experience that comes out of that is stellar, is phenomenal. Of course, it'll increase the revenue, because one of the things you could ask is what is it that all places you can think of with great customer service have in common? And mostly you're going to be able to say, well, they have higher prices. And I would say, yes, higher prices, but it's really not a higher price. It's actually a higher value. And it's very different to have a higher value than it is to have a higher price. There's often a higher price tag with that, but the price matches the value, and therefore people are expecting to pay it, and it doesn't bother them. They're not, like, oh gosh, no, I can't afford it. You don't have to talk them into it because of the increased value. You also get, you don't have to worry about discounts. Like I said, it's very important. Another benefit of great customer service is good press, right? You have to figure out how to catch the reviews as you're getting them. That's very important. Make sure you have a system in place that catches your reviews for you, or that asks for reviews as part of that. But essentially, when you go to a Michelin star restaurant, everybody is going to talk about their experience. There's going to be pictures of the food. I went to one 3 months ago in Washington, D.C., and I have pictures of the food all over Facebook, right? Because that's just how it works. Highest level of customer service was phenomenal. I took pictures of the food, of the waiters. They parked the car, all the things. So I told everyone, if you ever go to the DC area, it's worth the 40-mile drive outside of DC to go to the inn at Little Washington. It is absolutely the most amazing restaurant on the East Coast that I've been to. Also is high demand, right? Which means when you get busy, we're talking about growth. So when you get really, really busy, you're going to have a wait list. And sometimes it's really hard for us, right? We struggle a little bit when we tell someone, gosh, you can't get in. Instead, they're like, oh no, I'll work through my break. I don't have to pee, and I'll come in early, and I'll work Saturdays, right? Because we don't want anyone to wait, because what if they leave? Well, what happens when you call a restaurant, you find out there's a wait? Does that increase the value of going to the restaurant or decrease the value of going to the restaurant? In general, if you're really, really hungry, maybe it decreases it. But in general, you're like, ooh, this place is popular, right? You're driving down the road and you see all these people lined up outside of an ice cream shop. This just happened to us. We're in the Outer Banks. It just happened to us down the road. Did we think that was good ice cream or not good ice cream? Right? We were like, oh man, we got to go there, right? It's just because the high demand, it's worth the wait. So that's why good press and high customer service really matters. You'll have delighted customers. And I will tell you, it's a lot more fun to have an office full of happy customers than it is to have an office full of not happy customers. So that repeat business thing is phenomenal, right? When people enjoy something, they release serotonin and dopamine, right? And guess what? Serotonin and dopamine are addictive. Just saying, right? So they start slowly getting addicted to the amazing feeling in your office. And once they start releasing serotonin and dopamine, and every time they think about you, every time their phone rings, or every time they get a text reminder from Jane saying, hey, your appointment's just around the corner, they're going to release serotonin and dopamine, serotonin and dopamine, serotonin and dopamine, right? So it's just going to be this wonderful feeling of that. It'll increase retention. They're not going anywhere else because they love going to Dr. Michelle's office, right? They love that experience. It's so much fun. It's so much fun to see her, whatever, right? And they're going to expect great things. The coolest part about high customer service and having a reputation that precedes you is that your patients are already healing before they walk in the door. And I love that. They're already healing before they walk in the door. Your work is being done already because they're super aware of the amazing things to expect based on the reviews, based on the word of mouth, and based on the fact that everybody's had a great experience in your office. And you won't have any whiners, right? I love those signs in the various, establishments as we travel the country that say something like, if you're a whiner, just leave, and things like that. And that'll kind of be in your office too. You won't have to worry about that. Another amazing benefit of stellar customer service or stellar customer experience is you're going to have really happy team. And a happy team means you don't have to train new team members all the time. Your turnover for your team members will be less and less and less. You're just going to have in general more joy in your practice because people are going to be excited to be there. Having a coveted workplace is a higher value than the amount of money you pay people. It is important to pay people what they're worth. Absolutely. I highly recommend that. Make sure your profit margin is large enough that you can pay the people that work for you what they're worth. But remember, it's not just about the money. So when you're hiring people, make sure you're sharing with them the environment, right? And I hate to bring up Jane again, but Jane's one of those experiences. Everyone I've talked to that works at Jane has a really good work environment. So it's worth more, not that you don't want raises, right? But it's worth more to have an amazing work environment than it is to get another, $2 or $3 an hour or $5 an hour. It really is worth more for that. The Harvard Business Review journal, I kind of geek out on business a little bit, and I read that a lot. One of the things they had an article talking about emotional intelligence, right? You've heard of IQ, which is, your intelligent quotient, which is how smart you are. But EQ is your emotional quotient. And what that stands for essentially is your impact on others and your knowledge of how you impact others. And how it turns out is that team members and employees are happier when they know they're making a positive impact on the world, on the company, and on their customers than they are if they get a raise. And so knowing that, and knowing that by having a stellar customer experience, they're going to be, use that word again, experiencing other people's wins constantly. And that's going to make them want to stay and want to be happier in your office. And then improve patient outcomes, right? Like I said, serotonin and dopamine. We know cortisol is the stress hormone, the fight or flight hormone, right? And anytime someone's stressed, it actually lowers their immune system, right? It lowers their body's ability to heal, and it reprioritizes what the brain works on, right? So the brain goes into fight or flight, and it stops healing things and instead makes sure you can survive, right? So when you release serotonin and dopamine from being greeted at the door, from a smiling face, from an amazing adjustment or an amazing treatment of some sort, when you experience those things, it increases your serotonin and dopamine, which reduces your cortisol, right? Increases your testosterone, which is your get up and go, increases your estrogen, which is your nurture, right? And your oxytocin, you connect with others. So the cool part about having a stellar patient experience is it affects the hormones in the body of the people that you're treating. So they're going to have elevated good hormones. They're going to heal faster. You're going to be in a better mood, right? And they're going to reduce their stress. So one of my favorite things about almost all the modalities that I saw go through the chat room are that they all help the bodies better adapt to stress, right? So if you back up from what you do in your practice, in your service, the big picture is you help the body adapt to stress so that you're taking the pressure off of it. You're helping it reprioritize things, right? And that's why the body heals so successfully, is because now it's got a priority that works because it's not doing all these other things to deal with stress, right? And that's what a great stellar patient experience does for your patients, is it takes away all of the distractions and ick and allows them to get to the healing process, which is so fun. So since it's all about growth, a stellar patient experience increases retention, referral, revenue, and results. Bunch of R's, right? Love that. Okay, so now that you know you want one, how do you create a stellar patient experience? First and foremost, you have to have a clear vision. You have to actually know what experience you want, right? If a French restaurant wants to create an experience of being a French restaurant, then focusing all on barbecue probably is not their goal, although there are some really amazing French barbecue restaurants, so it can be. So again, just being really clear about what that vision is. So clear, in fact, that you could dumb it down to 3 words. So take a second and think about your practice, and what 3 words would you want every single patient to experience? Do you want them to experience being relaxed, taken care of, listened to? Do you want them to experience kind of a vibrant, healthy, capable world? Do you want them to feel like they're part of a family or celebrated? Like, what do you want every single patient to experience? And then you've got to take a step away from that and go, okay, if I want to feel relaxed, what makes people feel relaxed? Right? Probably not heavy metal music jamming in the background, right? You'll probably have some kind of calmer music, maybe some green on the walls, some plants, maybe water running in the corner, right? That kind of thing. So think about those things, get a clear vision of what you're trying to create, and then create it. Be sure your vision is authentic to you. A lot of offices that I go into and work with, they're trying to create a vision of a should. Oh, I should have it look like this, or, you know, I visited someone else's office and they were doing that, or whatever. If it doesn't enhance your feeling when you walk into your own practice, it's probably not serving you. So think about what it would be to be authentically you. If you authentically show up, what does that look like? And I want you to build your practice, not someone else's practice, right? It doesn't do you any good to build someone else's practice. And actually it won't grow. If you're truly stuck on growth, look and see if what your practice philosophy is being reflected in what your actions are. Because once you link those two, your practice will absolutely explode. Once you're being honest with people, when you're saying things like, you know, gosh, I'd like you to be my patient for the rest of your life. I want to take care of you from, from birth till earth, right? Or something like that. You know, if that's your goal, make sure you're clearly communicating that with people so you attract the people who actually have what you want. All right, awesome. So the second thing, once you have your vision, then you have to understand the truth about people. So I kind of geek out on sociology and the study of happiness and what stimulates people to feel good. Because a very short story about me: when I was 5 years old and we were sitting around the table in kindergarten, probably sitting on the floor, actually, I don't remember this moment. My dad tells the story. And the little boys were like, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. And little girls were like, I want to be a nurse. Whatever it was they were saying, I want to be a teacher. I want to be president. My response was, I want to make people feel good. And my dad was like, yeah, that's what you said. You said you want to make people feel good. So I've always geeked out on what it is that makes people feel good and how to share messages in such a way that encourages people to feel good and still set your boundaries and still get the point across. So that's kind of where we're heading here. So your patients, the truth about people and your patients is they like to know what to expect. They love to be guided, but they do not want to be directed, right? You know people like that, right? You tell them to do something, they're like, no. And you say, hey, let's do something. And they go, okay, right? Same thing. They will notice or experience what you set the stage for them to notice or experience. And I'll get into each of these details. And people have their own priorities, which may not be the same as yours, right? They may not be the same as yours. You're not psychic. You don't know people's priorities. And people really want to know how much you care, right? It's really important. You've heard the old saying of, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's actually true. It's actually accurate. So how do you create a stellar patient experience? Well, you have to marry these two, right? Your vision plus what, the truth about people. So let's go through that. Ellie, are there any dire questions right now?
No, I'm loving it. Some people are sharing their 3 words. I would love to see more. I think people really were thoughtful about it while you were talking about that. So
I wish I could read and speak at the same time.
At the same time, I know.
I'm no good at that.
They're really lovely. So
awesome.
I have notes for after to kind of come back to some of the things that you said, because I'm really like, I'm just saying, yes, everything you say. I'm like, yes, exactly. Yes. And so feel free to share your 3 words. If you have some in your mind or you wrote some down, it's really nice to see them. And you can read them back in the chat. Yeah, awesome. It's really great. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. So let's get into these, each of these people, the truths about people. First, people like to know what to expect, right? So studies actually show, and this blows my mind, but studies actually show that people will take an unpleasant known experience over an unknown experience every single time. If they didn't like the experience, but they've done it before, so they're going to do it again. That's why people go back to restaurants that are okay over and over and over and over, because they've been there. They don't want to try a new place. They've been there, right? So even though it's not the greatest experience, that tends to be human nature. Now, I will tell you, there's certainly exceptions to that. My husband and I try new restaurants. We never go to the same restaurant twice, but in general, that's kind of the way it works. So even though the new experience may or may not be painful, people are more likely to do something that they know what to expect. Because, so this is kind of a little bit off topic, but essentially humans are herd animals, right? We're group. And so we really care what others think about us. That's the truth. And no matter how much we like to pretend we don't care what other people think about us, we don't want to go into an unexpected situation and look silly. It releases cortisol. It makes our heart beat faster, right? It increases our anxiety, all the things. So people like to know what to expect. So what does that mean for your office? Well, make sure that it's really clear from the moment the patient walks in the door that they're guided through the flow of your office. Right? The minute you walk into a Michelin star restaurant, someone is standing there greeting you, usually by name, because they have all the tables down to the minute, right? They're standing there, they're greeting you, and they're guiding you to what's next. And they guide you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you never even have to make a decision, really, except which entree. Otherwise, there's no decisions to make. So be that for your patients. Think about it when they walk in the door. Do they know where to head? Or do they look around and wait for someone to go over here, right? Do they know where to head? Can you make that easier for them, right? When they walk up to the front desk, does the front desk person greet them, first of all, guide them to fill it out, and tell them what's next? A lot of times you'll fill out paperwork in an office and put it back and then go sit at your seat because you don't really know what's next. Are they going to come get me? Or, nobody said anything, right? So make sure your front desk is saying what's happening. Hey, Sally, it's so lovely to see you. Come on in. I'm going to have you fill this out. There's 2 pages, front and back. When you're done, please bring it up to me and I'll make sure that the doctor gets it and we'll guide you back to your room. oh, now I know totally what to expect, and I can walk right into it, know exactly what to expect, and then make sure that happens, right? If you say something and then you do something different, that's also an anxiety producer. So just make sure your flow is well, touted, that people know what to expect, and that you're following that flow consistently. And then from visit to visit, it's also important to have some consistencies. I don't want you to do the same treatment each time or ask the same questions each time, but some kind of flow, right? You typically go from this room to that room to this room, or you typically start on your, face down, whatever it is. If it's different, make sure you're giving them information so they know what to expect. And if it's the same, make sure it's consistent. And all of that can be in your manuals, your procedures, right? So every time you plug in a new team member to your happy little environment, that they can plug right in, know exactly what order things happen. Your patient education is very important in this as well. And this is where you create more value for what it is that you do. It's so fun. I love patient education, super geek on that. So essentially, you be your patient's GPS, where they were, where they are now, what you're going to do, and what they can expect based on what you're going to do, right? Where they were, where they are now, what you're going to do, and what they can expect based on what you're going to do, right? So when you
Dr.
do
Michelle,
that,
can I,
yes,
this is a good question in chat. So I thought I
yes.
would jump in while it's still relevant because I realized I'm going to jump all over the place at the end here. What if you're a person office? How would you recommend you guide people as they come in with no front desk person? And I think this is a really great question. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or I also think people are welcome to answer in the chat if they are a one-person office and are successful. And I have a few thoughts.
Absolutely. So I used to be a one-person office. Actually, I went from one-person office to 6 people in the office to 3 people in the office to 1 person in the office to 6 people in the office because, I kept changing my mind on what I wanted in practice. So all the things. And what we had is a nice, beautiful note. The moment you walked in, there was a beautiful note that said, "Welcome. So happy to see you. Please have a seat. We'll be with you shortly."
Yeah,
And
I
when you
love
say
it.
that,
Posted.
yeah, just
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
clear. And it sets the stage for people to know what to expect. Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
even, I think before you come, you could put a lot of information in your booking notifications or your reminders or any communication that you have in advance. I was thinking about that when you said people want to have that GPS, they want to know, and you can extend that to before. And you probably talk about after the treatment, but it was my pet peeve when people would come up to the front and I'd say, I'd be working the front. They'd be like, did they need to see you again? And they'd be like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, you should know. And
We
that's
will
about
get to that.
yes. Okay. I'm sorry to jump ahead. My biggest pet peeve of all time. But yeah, even in advance. So putting it in the written notification you send out, posted notices. And I love how you mentioned that, like, welcome, we're so happy you're here. Those little changes in language make such a significant difference versus like, I'm like,
Wait to be seated.
yeah, like something like that versus those little moments, those little language tweaks can make a very big difference in the experience. So yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. When you read something, think about how it makes you feel. Wait to be seated sounds like this, right? Don't come any closer, don't trespass, don't come. That's not okay. That is not how you want your patient to feel, right? Instead, it needs to be something like this. Come inside, have a seat. So read through your paperwork, right? Read through your no-show policy, right? Read through your cancellation policy. It has to have boundaries and it has to get to a point, but it needs to sound like you're inviting them, right? That you respect them and that you're setting respectful boundaries. So think
And
about that.
even
Yes.
thinking back to those 3 words that you had people come up with, like, is all your written communication, all your communication conveying those 3 words? Like, are they all connecting through? Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, so then you need to set the stage for what they can expect from today's care. And if you're a wellness office, like so many of us are, you need to set the stage for what they're going to get with ongoing care as well. And so every single time they come in, they know what to expect from today. Mrs. Smith, you're probably going to be a little bit achy and sore from today, but your headaches are probably not going to come back and you're going to sleep really well tonight. And with ongoing care, what you can expect is, more energy, the ability to get on the floor and play Legos with your kiddo. And you'll just, you'll be able to bend over and stoop over and play, with your kids or garden or whatever it is you choose to do with ongoing care, right? So setting that stage for not just what they can expect for today, what they can expect with ongoing care, which creates value for that retention and that return. So thank you, Ali. That's totally what I was getting at. Remember, and I'm going to come back to this in a second, but the most effective GPS systems give you the most direct route, which is really important, and we'll come to that in a minute. But it also gives you frequent reminders of what's next, right? Can you imagine if your GPS said all of the pieces of, well, let's go back one. If your GPS said all of the directions when you hit go, and it said, turn left on this, go 62 miles, then turn right on this and go 47 miles, then turn left on that, right? Instead of turn by turn directions, can you imagine? But so many offices I go into, that's what they're giving their patients is here's your turn by turn of your care for the next 6 months. And hopefully you'll remember all of that, right? Remember, they will not remember. I promise you, they will not remember what you said on the first and second visit, especially if they're in any form of discomfort. It won't do you a darn bit of good to tell them all the things on the first or second visit. Their eyes are going to glaze over. They're not going to connect to it. They're not going to know it. Now, it's fine to give them, if you think about GPS, Google Maps will zoom way out, right? And so then you can see the general route. So you know you're going to go south and then north. Yeah, great. That's great information. But you don't need the turn by turn on that first visit, right? Give the turn by turn as they go when it's relevant for them. Let them know, here's the myriad of different treatments you're going to expect in our office. You don't need to tell them you're going to have 6 visits of this, 3 visits of that, 12 visits of that. Most likely, it's not going to go in anyway, but give them that information as they go when it's relevant and create value for that information. So people like to be guided, but not directed. So I love this one. And I'm going to give you a magic word in just a minute here, and it's not please, but that's a good word too. But there's a magic word that we use in the office all the time. Studies show that people have a better experience when they make fewer decisions. What? People want to be in control and they want to decide what they want. No, people actually don't. So it shows over and over and over again, the fewer decisions, the better. That's why I recommend, for instance, when you're scheduling with Jane, have the few treatments available for scheduling online, and any of your more complicated treatments have call to schedule or call to book, right? Because then they can pick between those 3 or 4 different treatments that are really essential, and then the fancier ones they can call to book. And that sets up for success, and then they don't, buyer's remorse and wonder if they chose the right service and this and that. In general, humans also don't like to be told what to do. Right? Has anybody ever seen a toddler or a teenager? We really don't like to be told what to do. So when if your paperwork is telling people what to do versus inviting them to do something, it's a very different feel for them, and they're going to get a very different response from them as well. Okay, so how do you solve this issue? You can't ask them a bunch of questions and you can't tell them what to do. So what do? Telling on one side, go over there, do the thing, schedule your next 7 visits. Asking them on the other side. Like Ali said a second ago, do you want to schedule your next visit? Do you want to come back? Like, none of that's helpful, right? None of that's helpful. So how do you do that? So there's a magical word, it's called let's. Think about the word let's. Let's go for a walk. You should go for a walk. How does that feel? Where do you feel that in your body? You should go for a walk. Do you want to go for a walk? Where do you feel that in your body? But where do you feel, let's go for a walk? Where does that feel? Right? For me, it's right here. And the answer is almost always yes. But when someone says, let's do something, it's like reaching out your hand and saying, let's do this together. Let's do this together. It feels like you're walking with them, like it's a journey and it's an invitation. And so it feels very different. So try your front desk, try this out on your front desk or yourself. Anytime there's a question of whether or not, let's get you some orthotics. Let's go ahead and rebalance those feet so that you don't have so much discomfort when you're walking. Right? So let's get you scheduled out so that you have the times that work for you. Right? Let's add some acupuncture treatments next time. It'll really enhance the care that you're already getting. Right? Let's get you some supplements. You'll sleep so much better tonight.
Can I just mention, Dr. Michelle, I love this. And I'm trying to save my comments till the end, but I can't. I love that it puts responsibility on them and you on their care. Like, it's a collaborative word, but it's also a shared responsibility word. So like really great choice of word. Like you're getting a lot of very excited comments about this tip. So this one's
Okay.
really valuable for people. Yeah.
This one works so well. When you start using Let's, your retention will go up like 30%. It just boom. Let's get you scheduled out. And everybody knows you're supposed to schedule patients out for multiple visits. And people really struggle with that one for some reason, right? Oh, I don't want to ask them. Oh, what if they don't know their schedule? Oh, whatever reason. But the truth is, one, they want to come see you because you're good at what you do. Two, they like you. Face it, your patients are seeing you because they like you. It's the truth. And three, they're getting results. So knowing those three things, inviting them to schedule multiple appointments isn't hard, right? Because they want to come see you. And what happens when your schedule's full? Oh, they can't come see you, right? They like you. So what happens if you have no room for them? Oh, now they don't get to see you. They don't get their fix, right? And three, they're not going to get the results they want if they don't schedule out. So please reframe things in your head. Your patients actually want to see you. I swear. I swear. It's probably you telling them fewer visits that's making them schedule fewer visits rather than the other way around. I had so many patients who I was like, okay, let's go from 1 week to 2 weeks. And they were like, oh, really? Are you sure? Can I come into it every weekend? Yes, you can. It's fine. You can. Yes, there's value to it. It's fine. But when you add a desired result to the Let's, which is AKA a reason. So anytime you want someone to do something, give them the reason why. Just give them the why and give it to them in the benefit for them, right? Not, hey, let's get you scheduled because I've got a Mercedes payment to make this week. Right? That's not their why. But, hey, let's get you scheduled because you've got a cruise to get to next week. So let's get you scheduled so that your back doesn't spasm and you can get on that cruise ship with no worries, right? Create a value for them at the end, and it really elevates the power of your Let's. So think about how you could potentially add that in your clinic. And believe me, it makes it really fun because again, then everyone's there because they want to be, not because they have to be, and not because they hurt too much not to be. It's really fun, super fun. Okay, this is one of my favorites too. I'm kind of a geek, I know. People will experience what they're told to experience. People will notice what they're told to notice, right? You can be in a circus tent, and when the ringleader says, please direct your attention to the high wire, you're no longer seeing the elephant balancing on the ball. You're no longer seeing the guy juggling fire. You're no longer seeing the lion master cracking his whip. You are seeing what you're directed to see, which is the guy on the high wire, right? If I was to say to you, Allie, you're not gonna believe this. Look outside. There's all these red cars. Like there's nothing but red cars. It's crazy. What do you think you're gonna see when you go outside? You're gonna see a bunch of red cars, even if there's not more red cars than normal, because you're being directed to do so. Now, how does that relate to care? Well, most patients don't know what changes to notice and what changes to attribute to your care, right? They just don't know. And it's not their fault, they just don't know. But if you tell them what to notice, they will notice that and they will attribute it to your care, right? Which will then increase your retention, increase the results, increase revenue, all the things. So for instance, what I always, and people who've heard me speak before will always laugh because I always said to every patient, when you get up off the table, you're gonna feel lighter and looser. The minute people got off the table, they go, oh my God, it's weird. I feel lighter and looser. I'd be like, really? Huh, let me write that down. Right? Because they didn't make the connection that I had told them that. But when they got up, that's immediately what they felt. So think about what result you want your patient to feel immediately in the moment so they can connect it to your service and tell them what to experience, right? You're going to feel an overwhelming feeling of calm when you get up, right? Don't tell them the bad stuff. You might be dizzy when you get up. Okay, now you're telling them to notice that. Watch what you're noticing, right? If you need to warn them about being dizzy, conversation is a little bit different, right? Most people when they get up, they just feel this overwhelming sense of calm. Might be a smidge dizzy when you get up. It's not a big deal, it'll pass, right? So what did I tell them to expect? Not a big deal, it'll pass, but they're gonna feel an overwhelming sense of calm. Set the stage so your patients know what to expect, right? Then the coolest part is that last bullet. When they go back to their office, what are they going to tell people? Well, I felt a little bit dizzy after care. That's because that's what you told them to experience. Or are they going to go, man, I stood up and I felt lighter and looser. It was great. Everyone that heard her say that is going to be like, I'm sorry, who do you see? I want to see that person. Give me the card, right? It increases your revenue, increases your referrals, increases your results. Cool. Whatever it is you ask your patient on every visit, remember, so how many of you wanted to be good students? Anybody go to school and want to be a good student? Whether you were or were not, you probably wanted to be a good student at some point. And one of the things that makes you a good student is knowing how to answer the question you're going to be asked. Yes? So if the question you're asking your patients is, what hurts? What's wrong? What's not great today? What do we need to work on? Those are the questions patients are focusing as they're driving to your office. So I will challenge you. I challenge you to ask the question, what's better? Simple words, because no matter what, your documentation is going to require that you show change. And what's better is change. And it's a different mindset. And it's going to take some training. I promise you, your patients at first will look at you like, huh? What? Better? Is that a thing? Right? Because you've been asking them other questions up until now. But start asking them that question. What's better? Because you know what that will do is the whole time they're driving to your office, they're going to be coming up with what's better. Because that's the question you're going to ask them. What do you think that does? It releases serotonin and dopamine, right? So just that little shift, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of training because they're probably going to immediately answer the what's wrong question. Well, I don't know what's better, but my lower back is still, really achy and this and that, this and that. You're like, okay, so last time you came in, it was searing pain and now it's a little achy. So that sounds to me like it's better. Yeah, I guess it is better. Cool. What's better? Just a thought, just a thought. So if you use let's and what's better, would love to hear how that changes your practice for you and how it feels to go to work. Okay. We have hands raised. Let's go ahead and take some, if someone has their hands raised, Ali, I'm happy to.
Oh, do we? I think I have a different, let me just see if that's. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, so I won't worry about it. I don't see it. It popped up really quick. It's fine.
Oh, someone might have put their hand up and back down again. Okay. Yeah, no, I think everyone's like just contributing their questions in chat, and you're getting a lot of encouragement. I know when you are speaking and you can't see chat, it's hard. It feels like you're speaking to a void a bit. So, but no, lots of great enthusiasm. Actually, someone said, Suzette said, Dr. Michelle, you're such a genius. So if you want to continue, that's where we're at right now. We're at the genius level and we're excited to hear.
Oh man, now I have to live up to that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, good second. Yeah,
okay,
keep going.
So people have their own priorities. And one of the things I see all the time in offices is the doctors or the business owners deciding what their patients' priorities are for them. And what I will tell you the truth is that people expect you to trust them, or they trust rather that you will hear them and believe them, okay? And that you have the expertise to get them where they want to go. They wouldn't be in your office if they didn't think you had the expertise, right? They'd be at someone else's office, right? So stop thinking that they don't want what you have, and stop directing them to a watered down goal, okay? When someone says, it's one of my favorite analogies, when someone says, I want to get from LA to New York City, what would you tell them? How would you give them directions? Would you be like, well, the fastest way is, of course, to fly. You can get on a plane at LAX and you can be in New York City in an X number of hours, but they probably don't want to fly, and they probably can't afford it anyway. So yeah, so I shouldn't tell them that. So I'll let them drive. But okay, so what if I just give them directions to Colorado, and then I check with them to make sure they still really want to go to New York, right? This sounds really silly, right? That's just silly. That's all silliness. But that's what I see in offices all the time, where people are like, well, I know you want to get from this place where you are to this health goal. And I know the fastest way to get you there is going to be, these series of treatments, probably with some added supplements, maybe, in addition to chiropractic, let's add some acupuncture because they'll get you there faster. And, a series of visits in the series of period of time. And then they go, oh, but they probably won't want to do that many. So let me knock off a few visits, and oh, let me take away a couple treatments. And gosh, if I refer them out for massage, then gosh, maybe they won't come back. And right? Does that sound familiar? Have you had any of that head talk before? Well, that's all silliness. You need to give them the actual directions to get from where they are to where they're going. They came to you for your best level of expertise. Don't water it down. Don't decide they can't afford it. Don't decide they don't have time for 3 times a week, or, gosh, they don't want to come for the next 6 months, or you don't know any of those things, right? So don't do that, right? Don't do that. Don't water them down. Give them the best recommendations to get them from here to there. And then, of course, just like with Google, if you need to say, I need an alternate route, that's fine. It's totally fine. But remember what Google says when it gives you an alternate route. You remember? It says it might take longer, right? So share that with your patients, right? Because time is the one resource we can't get more of. Yes? You can make more money. Oh yeah. I don't care if you have an hourly job that only pays you this much. There are ways to make money in this world. It's true. You can't make more time, right? So if you think changing your priorities or changing your suggestions for care potentially will make healing take longer, share that with them and just let them make the call. It's totally fine. I don't want to drive across a big bridge, so I'm going to take 16 extra minutes and go around. Great, excellent. But at least you gave them the best possible option. That makes sense? Hopefully that makes sense. This wasn't too harsh. I
No,
feel
I love
harsh
it.
on that one.
I've experienced that a lot working in clinic, but I feel like it's often because practitioners have a hard time valuing their own knowledge appropriately with patients, understanding that they're actually much more knowledgeable than patients, and patients
Sure.
need a little bit more instruction than they kind of think. But then also that I love what you said earlier about their it's like their view versus your view. And you're thinking, I think a lot of people feel like, well, I look greedy. They're going to think that I'm just trying to make money off of them. And they're concerned that it's going to appear that way, which is totally not true. And I can tell you from the patient perspective, I go in knowing that this is a practitioner mindset. So whenever I see any therapist, I'm like, don't to make me do homework. I'm not a homework person. So book me in to come in and do my homework here because I need that. I want to be cared for. And I know that there's a real disconnect for some reason across like healthcare practitioners in their ability to just say, this is what people actually want. It's strange. So I love that. That's great.
And that's a great point, Elliot, because it's really important too to have that conversation with your patient and figure out what kind of care they want. Right. And I don't mean ask them because that's not relevant. They can't figure it out. But when you say, if I give you homework, is that going to be something that's going to work well for you? Or would you rather have a few more visits in the office so we can facilitate the homework for you? Some people are do-it-yourselfers, right? That's why Home Depot exists, right?
Yeah. And I am not.
Some people are not.
Give you, please just
Right.
book me in many, many times. I will. That's what I need.
And that's why contractors exist, right? So, do you want to do your own bathroom or do you want someone else to do it? And either answer is fine. One might cost more, right? And one might take longer, right? And again, it's just that priority of that. So I love that you brought that in. That's so awesome. So offer them the best, most direct path. And it may include additional services. Like I said, it might be, you're going to add a supplement to help them sleep better while they heal. You're going to add acupuncture to the chiropractic because the neurological connection there is going to be enhanced. No matter what they choose, they will be grateful that you shared with them the best route. What often happens is when you water down the treatment, you water down the results. And people are not patient. They are not patient. So when something is slow to get better, they're going to say it didn't work. And that's so frustrating to me when I see patients coming into practitioners' offices and they leave before they're better, but not because it was going to cost too much or there were too many visits, because it didn't work. right? Either they weren't pointed out, they weren't shown the results as they went through. So there was no value for care because they couldn't notice the results, they couldn't perceive the results themselves, or the care was so watered down because of the fear of the practitioner to book too many appointments or charge too much money that that person, didn't get better, didn't finish the care. So, and when you're thinking about value, I know we're short on time here, but I'll be as quick as I can. When you're thinking about value, it's so important to put the value based on the patient's experience, right? How much does it cost? Or how much would you pay, rather, to be able to pick up your child and hold them? Right? That's one of the things you're helping people do, right? How much would you pay to be able to sit on the floor for hours and play Legos with your 3-year-old who just wants to always put them in his mouth, but he's so darn cute, you don't care, right? I mean, you care, doesn't want them in the mouth, but
No, but like on your mouth. That's
they don't go to the mouth.
Legal disclaimer. I also love that when you talked about their own priorities, I often hear about people writing outcome measures, not based on like typical templates, but like, well, what's important to you? Like, can you walk around the block is like a typical one, but who cares if you don't like walking around the block? Like, so I love what you just said there. Like, can you get up from playing Lego on the floor with your child? That's what we're working towards. Let's talk about how we can get there. Like, I love that, looking at it from their priority and then tracking that over time. How close are we to that? That's great.
And then on every single visit, touching base with them. What I expect with ongoing care is that you'll be able to play on the floor with your kids and play Lego for hours. Currently, we're up to 15 minutes and your legs go numb. Great. Let's make it 30, right? Let's get it longer and longer so you can have more and more of that quality time. And it is important for you to figure out what's actually important to them. That's a whole other conversation. I geek out on patient education all day long. That's a whole other conversation, but make sure your paperwork is getting to the bottom of what actually is important to them. It's not the back pain. It's not the neck pain. I swear to you, they could care less. It's what's actually not happening in their life because of the pain. And that's what you need to figure out as a practitioner. That's where you need to dive into. That kind of segues into this, Alex. A nice job. People don't want to know how much you care, until you know how much you care, right? So they need to know that you actually care about them, right? The little things make a huge difference. That Michelin star restaurant that we went to, the Inn at Little Washington, was phenomenal. At the very end, they hand you a little box of cookies, little treats that are homemade there, but it's shaped like the hotel. And that's really special, but it comes with the menu and it has your name. Thanks for a great evening, Michelle and Tony. Right at the top. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. That was months ago, right? It's just so cool. So the little things really matter. Handwritten thank you notes. Every time someone has a suggestion, it connects you with someone who might then potentially lead to something. Of course, for every new patient, handwritten thank you card. And please don't make it a branded thank you card. Unless your brand is absolutely stellar, beautiful, and you would hang it up on your wall in a frame, it is not appropriate for a thank you card. Okay, that looks like sales. When I get a branded thank you card, I feel like that was one more touch, in the marketing world. So
I think we send you a branded thank you card for being a speaker at Allied. How do you feel about that?
Fix that. No.
All right, we're going to change that immediately. So guess that's not going to happen. Yeah, I love it.
If you send it with chocolates, it's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I love the socks and I love the cup and I love the hat.
I know. I love that. These are great tips. Yeah, so good. This is someone said one of their words was seen, that you feel seen, and one of their 3 words. I love that word so much. So this is
an important word. Yes,
it's
such an important
people
word.
just feeling seen in their care. Yeah.
Well, especially in this day and age currently, right? We're in a world where we're online. I can't even tell who's seeing me. I don't know. It says 122 participants right now. Well, that's nice. Well, hopefully someone's seeing me and looking at me and hearing and getting some relevance out of this. But feeling seen is so important. And that's what goes back to that. You're going to listen to them and you're going to believe them when they tell you they have a goal, and don't make up your own goal for them. That's another segue. So acknowledge their struggles, right? Help them feel seen, as she just said, which is wonderful. And then tell them how much you appreciate them, right? Before the end of every single visit. Actually, so weirdly, as a chiropractor, after every thrust, I said thank you to the body. And it wasn't weird. Like they didn't think it was weird in the moment or anything. I would thrust and I'd go, thank you. Oh, that was great. Oh, thank you. That was great. And I just constantly said, thank you. And it wasn't to be woo woo or anything. It was just a reinforcement that I really, really appreciated. One, their body letting me in so that I could actually do the work that they needed done. And two, that I appreciated them being there. But before they left, every single patient got an appreciation before they left. You know, hey, Robert, it's so good to see you. You always make me smile when you come in. I'll see you next week. Every single patient, every single time. And I will tell you, not one of them was like, you told me that last week. Like, I just promise you, nobody said that. So it's okay to say the same thing multiple times. People need to hear it. So make sure. And then this last bullet, to reemphasize what we did before, share the best path to their goals, because that is what shows them how much you care. You really care to get them better. Share the best path with them. Don't require them to initiate every action. So one reason I love Jane, there's so many reminders in Jane that help people keep the ball in the practices court instead of in the patient's court. It's really important. Don't do the come back when you need me. We already talked about that, right? That doesn't help. They don't know when they need you. They didn't go to med school or whatever school. They didn't go. They don't know.
Also, pain disappears before dysfunction, people. So they're going to feel better, but they're not necessarily better, and their pain's going to come back. And they think you didn't help, depending on your service. But I'm going to just say, actually, this probably is true for most modalities. Okay, go on.
I think that's true in every modality. And so whenever I do patient education at the beginning, I always say to them, look, I can get rid of your back pain. I'm going to do that in my sleep. I can do that with my hands tied behind my back and a blindfold. Like, getting rid of pain is easy. The goal is to get you to stay better so you're never back here ever again. I don't mean back in my office, but you're never back in a situation where you can barely breathe. You can't get on the floor and play Legos with your kids. My goal is that you never experience that ever again. This is what it takes. So let's get you scheduled and let's get you better. Right? That's kind of the conversation that typically would happen in my office over and over and over again. Don't do the just call to schedule or schedule online. I love that you can schedule online. I love that, but make sure you have something that catches them when they don't. Is anyone who comes in your office think, do you think that moment in your office is the most important moment of their day? Are you the most important person they need to see all week or all day? I hope not. I really hope not, for your patient's sake. Right. So they have other things on their mind. The minute they walk out the door, I mean, gosh, how many hats do we wear? Right. They're running through their grocery list or Target, and they're thinking when they have to pick up the kids, and they, oh my gosh, and I can't believe, and oh, that's right, it's my mother-in-law's birthday next week. Where in there is go online and schedule going to happen? And anybody ever log in their computer, dive into Facebook, and totally forget why you logged into your computer? Right. That's a real thing. It's real. So do not leave it in their court. I have a whole system called No Patient Left Behind. It's an awesome system, and it makes sure that no patients ever fall off your schedule. They're all taken care of, they're all cared for, and they're all listened to, and they all feel important. Don't let your patients tell you what they need, because they don't know. Oh, let me know when you need orthotics, or let me know when you need to add a massage to your chiropractic, and they don't know. Instead, use the magic word. Let's get you scheduled for those orthotics so you can have that stable base, so you can hold your pelvis adjustments better, right? Let's do that. Let's get you scheduled for that massage so that your muscles can continue to relax and chill, and you can get that R&R you need without kids screaming, right? Let's do that. Let's do that. The more you take off your patient's plate, the better. I'm going to touch on this story really, really quick. President Obama, one of my favorite stories about him is that in his wardrobe, he was famous for having very few ties and very few shirts and just a couple jackets. He had extremely limited wardrobe because he understood the more decisions you make, the worse you are at making decisions. So do you want to waste that decision on which tie to wear first thing in the morning when your bigger decisions of the day are, how to keep world peace, right? That's kind of a big deal. So he had a very limited wardrobe, so he didn't have to make those extra decisions. Take those things off your patient's plate. Use your EHR to take those things off your patient's plate. Use your systems to make sure the ball is always in your court and your patients don't have to be the ones to initiate action or move things forward. Okay, summary, super quick, because I know we're out of time. Thanks for sticking with me, everybody. Stellar patient experience. leads to more patient retention, right? They want to come back over and over and over again. And by the way, they do want to come back over and over and over again. So stop telling them they can't. More patient referrals, right? They're going to talk about you all day long, especially with these amazing words you're going to add, like let's and all the things, and what to expect. And then improve patient results, right? Because they're going to expect great results. You're going to point out the great results, and they're going to expect more great results. It's a great snowball. Increased revenue, of course, because your schedule is going to be super full and so much more fun. It's going to be so much less work. So I hope all of you end up more profit, a practice in the way that you want to. In other words, don't do things that you should. Don't should on yourself. It smells bad. Nobody wants that, right? So practice the way you want to practice, make the profit you want to make, and have the patients that you love and that love you back. So if you want any more information, or if you just want to tell me you kind of like this presentation, or, whatever you want to tell me on it, just email me. I'd love, love, love to hear back from any of you. You can also learn more about me at BeTheBestChiropractor.com. I'd love to hear if you guys implement things, how your results are. I'd love that. Because if the results aren't stellar, I need to tweak what I'm doing so that I can serve you guys better as well. So again, thank you so much for listening to me, Jane. Thank you for having me. I'm so appreciative. Jane app is like my favorite thing. I love it, especially spreadsheets. We could talk about that on a whole other phone call. But yeah, and Allie, thank you so much for co-hosting. This has been great.
Oh, that was my pleasure. I loved every single moment of that. And there's actually, I think what I want to do in the call notes, there's quite a few things there where you were talking. I'm like, oh, this is how Jane could help you do that. This is how Jane could help you do that. And I was like, oh, it would be great to give some tips. And it's funny because I've always demoed it that way with like, there's important notes in the chart. And I would say, just put there that last time they came in, they were really worried about their cat that's sick. So this is now an important note. And when they come in and you say, oh, your cat Kevin was sick last week, like, how is he doing? It's like, it just creates that like really special moment, because I think it just, you're never going to remember that normally, but bringing it into these notes can help. And I know that we're at time, and if you have to hop off, I think literally that's no problem. I can see in that you've gotten so much value out of this. I can tell already. So I love that. My degree is in English literature. My minor's in psychology. Everything you're saying is language and psychology. And I'm like obsessed with it all. I'm like, this is what shapes our world. We're totally everything. I'm like, exactly, like loving it so much. So someone did mention, which was interesting, I thought, that they felt like some of the comments were practitioner focused, and what can a front desk admin team do, which I thought was interesting, because I feel like all of this is completely things that the front desk admin team really can and should be implementing themselves. And often I think the power of your admin team or your front desk team as part of your actual clinical care is just underappreciated. And so I love the way that you focus this as being like it is an extension, whether it's the practitioner doing this type of relationship and this type of care, or whether it's an admin staff, you are just an expansion of that clinical care. So
the most important people are the people at the front desk, period, end of story. You can trade doctors in and out. You cannot trade front desk stuff in and out.
So I used to have, I've worked in clinic my whole life, and we used to have patients and it was a PT clinic. People would finish their course of care. I came in for like hip rehab, like hip replacement rehab, and then they would come back and just sit at the front desk, even though they didn't have appointments, because they were just so missed the whole environment and missed the front desk team being so part of their lives. And it's really incredible, the power of that. And then no one gets more chocolate at Christmas than the front desk team. I'm like,
that's true. That's so true. And that's just proof that they would come back over and over again if you allow them to.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's so powerful. I love it. We have another session on front desk, in particular, customer service and front desk team, where we're going to get to talk to, there's quite a few people at Jane that worked clinic and then came to Jane, and we're going to just have a little conversation about our experience in the admin side of front desk. So anyone who's here that wants to continue this conversation, it's very much going to be on the same themes, and yeah, love it. So thanks, Dr. Michelle. This was so wonderful.
Thank you.
And I think I wish we could have a whole second session on, I feel
just tell me when.
So much more to share. Okay. Thanks everybody. That's Allied session 3 of the day. So wrapping up, and appreciate you sticking around 10 minutes late, those of you that are still here, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.